Why won't the Muslim community stand up as Americans and speak out clearly against ISIS? I don't accept that they are afraid, because we are all afraid, and they're attacking us, not the Muslims.
Every single mosque in this country, the sermon on that Friday after San Bernardino was a condemnation of terrorism. We've condemned. We've condemned more than we've read Quran lately. Right? It's been I condemn. And someone was even suggesting we have an app called I Condemn, so we can just press a button every time something happens, and Muslims can say I condemn. That's it. There's an implicit racism sometimes in those questions, right? Because do we ask, when Dylan Roof murdered those people in that church, when a white supremacist carries out murder, do we ask all white Americans in the country to stand up and condemn that? When any other faith group has a lunatic that comes out, when someone blows up an abortion clinic in the name of Christianity, do we ask all Christians to condemn? And why aren't we hearing you condemn that person that blew up the abortion clinic? So there's almost an implied guilt, collective guilt, and we have to reject that collective guilt. I'm not responsible for it. I'm just as hurt as anybody else when an attack takes place. Muslims died on 9/11. Muslims died on 9/11. Hundreds of Muslims died on 9/11. Not just a few, hundreds of them. There were Muslim firefighters on 9/11. We reject the collective guilt. We do condemn. We condemn not because we believe that we're guilty. We condemn, number one, to distance ourselves. Number two, to show our congregation, to just place that path forward, to pave that path that, okay, this is not part of Islam, and this is why it's not part of Islam. However, the media chooses what to cover and what not to cover. We reach out to the media all the time. But the types of guests that are brought on these media outlets are often, not representative of our Muslim community. And when we do have someone that's put on these news channels eventually from our community, before they can even ask a question, they're asked questions like, do you support Hamas? Like, they're immediately put on the hot seat, and, their entire public life is put on display. So people don't want to deal with that nonsense, right? So we do condemn. We do stand up against that bigotry, and we stand up against that terrorism and all violence, in fact. But we've condemned ourselves out. So that's one. As far as the second part of that question, which is we're being attacked, not Muslims, the biggest victims, most of the victims of ISIS are Muslims. Muslims hate ISIS probably more than, even non-American Muslims hate ISIS more than most Americans do probably. So Muslims are the greatest victims of ISIS. And actually, the journalists that are being massacred and things of that sort, there are a lot of Muslim journalists that were being massacred too. That doesn't take away from the tragedy of losing American journalists and things of that sort. But what about the hundreds of Syrian journalists and Iraqi journalists that were beheaded as well by ISIS? So we're fighting this cancer as well. I often tell people the irony of my situation. I've had death threats from ISIS, and I've also been threatened by Islamophobes. So I've been attacked online, actually, of screenshots and emails and things of that sort from ISIS threatening to kill me for speaking out against them, and then I've been threatened by Islamophobes for secretly belonging to ISIS and for sympathizing with ISIS and for being a closet Islamist and so on and so forth. So the extremists will always speak in a synchronized fashion, but we have to reject it altogether.